welcome to Defense Diaries. I'm your host, Bob Mata, and this is my beautiful, brilliant, fantastically gorgeous co-host, Allie. What's up?
Hey, babe. Hey, y'all.
Hey, sorry for the delay, y'all. StreamYard was giving me a little static. It kept saying an error was occurring, so we apologize. I was actually trying to start it on time. It was not Bob Mata error. It was actually StreamYard error.
But
So
are
let
you
me know
sure?
in the chat if we're glitchy or anything like that, because we can't tell from our end. We always look clear. So we've been a minute off of Delphi. Just when we thought we were out, they drag us back in. Apparently, a couple of episodes dropped from another podcast that follows Delphi pretty heavily, and they were very critical of me and a couple of my friends, Cara Wieneke and Michael Ausbrook, and a couple of other friends, Courtney and Angela, who they are in some kind of death match type feud with, which really has nothing to do with me, which I'm going to get into briefly. There's going to be a few ground rules here. We are not an echo chamber. If you've never been to our channel, I do not live in a world of echo chambers. I have no problem as long as you're respectful. I don't care if you disagree with me. You are welcome to disagree with me. If you start calling me names, they're going to bounce you. And it's not me. It's my mods. They're very protective of Allie and I, and they should be. If you can't use your words in a way that is productive and concise, then we're going to bounce you. If you've got questions, and nothing's off the table, and just so you guys understand, I invited them via email early yesterday, told them I was going to be doing this live, sent them an email, very friendly.
They might be popping in here. Just hold on. They could come in.
They might. I mean, they didn't respond to my email.
And they didn't give you time to respond before.
Right. I mean, what their move is, with both times they dropped episodes, like I got an email, I think 5 minutes before they published their thing. And like the last time they made fun of me because I just assumed that they wanted to have an interview with me, because that's what adults do. Adults interview, like investigative journalists interview people. I thought, because I'm certainly not hiding from anybody ever.
I thought they just got access to private messages that people decide to share.
No. I'm talking about the first.
No, I thought that was what investigative journalism was at this point in time.
You're the one being snarky. I'm not being snarky. But no, I mean, the reality is I would love to have a conversation with them, because despite everything that they said in there being complete bullshit, which we're going to address tonight, the bigger issue, which I think is really a fascinating issue, and I think it's relevant to everybody that creates, is we saw it in the Karen Reed case. We see it in Delphi. And I would argue we see it a lot more from the perspective of Murder Sheet than we do from Defense Diaries, in terms of this case being affected one way or another. I would argue that, and I would love to debate them on that, but maybe they're not up for that debate. Like I'm not going anywhere. They made some kind of, huh? Oh, we do. We do have a guest. But I wanted to lay the ground rules first. So if you're cool and you've got opposition, bring it. Because I think we've all decided we do want to try to answer some questions. If it's going to be a question, I should apologize for telling Kevin to comb his hair before he comes on Court TV. You're not going to get it, because you know what? Kevin should comb his hair before he comes on Court TV. And Kevin, I'll tell you that to your face. Okay. Yeah, when you go on national TV, put a clean shirt on, comb your hair. It's like, it's just it's a thing that you do when you're going to be on TV.
All right.
I would say that to his face. Well, no,
I just wanted
to
say,
he said that I wouldn't say things to his face.
Oh,
so I'm saying it to his face. And when I am in Delphi on the 22nd, here, babe, just let me get my stuff out. Like these are going to be, I just want to address two things. I'm definitely going to be at court for all 3 days of the hearing. So if that was your hope, if your hope was to put out those episodes that I was going to be afraid to show up in Delphi, you whiffed. Like, there's no reason I wouldn't show up in Delphi. And if your hope is to include my Judge Gull foul language like private message in the hopes that she's going to somehow ban me. Maybe that'll work for you. I don't know. I mean, Judge Gull may do that. I don't know. I don't say things publicly like that about her. But then again, if you invade somebody's privacy, and you're going to get their private thoughts. So that's what's going to happen with that. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Michael Ausbrook on, one of the Cabal, one of our fellow Cabal members. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing great. That's don't want to be anywhere else.
Me either. And we desperately tried to get Cara on. She had other stuff going on. She did give me bullet points that she wants me to address explicitly. But Michael, as I'm sure you heard, I think kind of how we want to handle this is we definitely want to address like three main topics. And Allie and I are going to take a step back from the jury tampering accusations made by the murder sheet and let you handle it. You're an Indiana lawyer. Allie and I are not licensed in Indiana. You are, and I know that you put a pretty epic, what was it? Was it 25 or 34? It was a series of tweets that Michael did last night, a thread that was addressing this issue of this jury tampering prospect.
Maybe some to put a link to the first one up in the on the page or something. Comments. Yeah. I don't know.
That's actually a pretty good idea. Hold on. All right. Well, you start talking, and I'm going to see
before he does. I just want to I want to clear up like a couple things. So, first of all, Bob is the only one on Twitter or anything else who speaks under Defense Diaries. Now, that being said, those of you who know YouTube, there was something at some point where I'd log into YouTube and it would show up as Defense Diaries. That was the only place that's ever happened. So I say I don't have access to that because I don't, but not because I couldn't. Like, Bob, can I have access? But I would never speak as him. If I pick up his phone and text one of our friends, I'm like, hey, it's Allie, blah, 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 whatever I'm saying. So I was not party to or privy to, and still not, because none of you guys have those messages anymore, to the actual messages. But I want to start by just asking both you and Michael this before Michael takes the reins on the jury, tampering concept. Bob, have you, other than being asked to stand behind a conversation that was had in public, in court, in a courtroom that murder sheet then misreported, or a concern about him feeling however Hennessy felt when he received an email from them, has the actual defense lawyers ever asked you to do anything, say anything, or entice you to speak a certain way or topic or concept on social media?
Absolutely not.
Or anywhere else?
Unequivocally, no. Like, absolutely. I know nothing about any of the evidence in the case. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. I've never asked. Do I have communication with the defense team? Obviously. Like, in terms of strategy, we've communicated with Brad and Andy in terms of
filing motion.
We think they should be filing motion. Like, how do they get back on the case? I mean, we are defense bar lawyers. And that's the other thing I want to make clear. I think that what we need to understand here is that I am not an investigative journalist. Alison is not an investigative journalist. We are criminal defense attorneys. If you listen to our content, instead of just listening to what Murder Sheet says about us, because one thing is apparent to me, that Murder Sheet has never listened to any of my content, ever. They don't know anything about what I'm about at all.
Or what you say publicly.
Well, but like, and that's the one thing, the thing that's great about our podcast, and they like to call me a YouTuber, which just shows how disingenuous they are. We are a podcast. I have been a podcast. I started the podcast in 2021, long before I was a YouTuber. I do the YouTube to promote the podcast, which our first season was on Gacy. Our second season, which is still ongoing, is about Anthony Garcia case. So, and that was one of the things, like, people like to drop these things like we're hiding from the fact that you got like an ARDC beef in federal court on both Garcia and the Vendetta Redwood case. Like we're shying away from it. We don't back away from anything. If you know anything about us, we're an open book.
No, actually, when we did that episode with the podcast episode with the prosecutors, and they were talking about, somehow violating, it was in, I forget which case it was about. It was, it was Delphi, right? That information was leaked, and if you violate a court order, and I explained that I was accused in Nebraska of violating a court order, and to not disclose certain information, and then I went through and explained exactly what it was, and both Brett and Alice is like, well, that's completely and totally different. And then we have an entire season on Garcia, which goes into depth explaining exactly what their issue was there, which I still contend was a non-issue.
Safe harbor. So they're
right.
like, yeah, I mean, like,
and then the federal court, hey, we've talked about that openly as well. The microphones are very, very sensitive in federal
and for
court.
everyone who's under the impression that Alison like turned around and screamed fucking bullshit at the judge, dig deeper. That's not at all what happened. She got an adverse ruling, walked back to counsel table in federal court, which, as she said, are very, very mic'd up, leaned into her co-counsel, who was not me. She had a federal defender working that case with her, and she said that was fucking bullshit. And
that's
then
because
the judge,
you were on the Garcia case.
I was
but
on the Garcia.
I don't even think that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, but
I don't even know why
like people like to give you pushback on that, and it's
well,
like if you're gonna do it,
when you get not guilties in federal courts, some judges get rubbed the wrong way.
Yeah, true story. So like I think the way that we'll address this, Michael.
I got a question for Michael too. Back off. Remember, I'm moderating for the beginning part. Yeah. So, Michael, I just wanted to ask, outside of doing actual legal work, legal motions, legal research, things of that nature, have you been asked to come out and speak on a certain issue, like to present a certain narrative of the factual scenario publicly? And are you even aware of the discovery in this case?
No, nobody from the actual defense team has asked me to say, do, or push anything. And I have turned down every offer to have a look at the discovery. As I said in one of the tweets, I was offered the full video of Bridge Guy in return for an NDA, and I said no thanks.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and look, I mean, the fact of the matter is that, like I was saying in the beginning when I wasn't live and I was going on a rant, and then everybody's like, "Hey, you're not live, dude." I'm like, "Oh," but the fact of the matter is the one thing that Allie and I have is our actual content, and you can go and access both the podcast, starting with the PCA. And that was way before I had a YouTube channel. When that PCA dropped, at that point in time, my position as a defense attorney who's actually tried cases for 20 plus years is that it was a weak PCA. It had mere presence and it had an unspent casing, which was not real science. I'm sorry if you don't like that, but do a little bit of research. Are they going to get it in? Yeah. But is it real science? No. Will it be effective with the jury? Potentially, maybe. I'd be nervous about it if we had it coming in our case. I think that the case law in Indiana is going to allow for it to come in because they don't strictly follow Daubert or Fry. It's kind of a weird hybrid. They seem to let things in that I don't think necessarily would get in Illinois. But that was my position then, and nothing has changed because the only thing that has changed are these confessions that have happened. Now, people that like to that don't listen to my content, but like to report on my content and Alison's content, like to say that I'm stumping for an innocence bid. I don't know what the evidence is, so I can never do that. I don't know what the evidence is. All I can tell you is that PCA, in my estimation, to me, they better have more or they're never going to get a conviction on it. Now you add in the confessions, that's a whole different ball of wax. I have been practicing law long enough and dealing with inmates that have made confessions that have been held in conditions similar to Richard Allen, and they lose their minds. Like that is a fact. So, I mean, the context and the tone and the tenor and the information that's contained in those particular confessions are what's going to matter. I mean, if Richard Allen makes confessions where he's giving details that only the killer would know, well, then it seems like they got the right guy, and it's case over, and then we're all cheering. So, like this concept that I'm sitting here proclaiming that Richard Allen is innocent all the time is inexplicably untrue. And again, what I have to back that up is every single live that we have done on this case. I deal not in the facts. I deal in the pleadings, and we deal in the procedural process. Now putting that part aside, okay, so the fact that I'm not sitting here trying to argue that Richard Allen is innocent flies in the face of the entire concept of the Murder Sheets 3-part series. What, like, if you're asking me if I'm trying to get to the people one by one, the answer is unequivocally yes, but it's not as to innocence or guilt. What it is I'm trying to explain to people that when the state puts their theory of the case out, that's all it is a theory, that everything has to be vetted at trial.
That you're only doing, in this case, it's in every case. But let's go back to
Wait,
Michael.
I wanted to finish that.
Okay.
Real quick. It's like, it's not going to be a 10-minute rant, but but it's true. It's something that has to be addressed, because you don't see it, Alison, because you're not on socials as much. I have people calling me, a Allen apologist or a child killer apologist. And if you don't understand the legal process and you're new to this channel, I highly recommend, whether you agree or disagree, start watching it, because what we do is we educate you on how the process really actually works. And for anybody to say that this guy doesn't deserve a fair trial, that means that you don't respect the Constitution of the United States. Now, like, people get upset when I talk about the Constitution all the time. Well, it's because it matters. And it doesn't just matter for Richard Allen. It matters for every single one of us in this country. So you have to see in every single trial, whether it's Delphi or any other trial that we're observing, that the defendant is receiving a fair trial, period. That is what I'm trying to get people to understand and to get on board with. That is our message. Always, always, always. And what has happened to Richard Allen in this case has been an absolute destruction of his constitutional rights. His right to a speedy trial was destroyed by Judge Gull. His right to counsel has been destroyed by Judge Gull, because if you think just by way of those two lawyers getting back on this case that has cured the issue, you cannot unring the bell of her portraying them as clowns and incompetent fools. That is out there, and that is attached to them going through this trial. So the reality is that everybody that was on the other side of that, making mispronouncements of the law, saying things like, Andy Baldwin talking to somebody else for strategy was inappropriate and unethical, is wrong. And that's directly to the murder sheet, who did say that. And to me, they were propagating this thing with Andy and Rosie being unethical without any proof of it. And I mean, the bottom line is, you have to think about the defendant during this process and the search for justice. This entire part that we're in has very little to do with Abby and Libby. Right now, everything has to do with Richard Allen. And I'm going to say it, and I've said it a million times, I'm going to say it again. The girls and their families only get justice if they get the right guy. And in order to figure that out, he has to have a fair trial. Otherwise, you're doing this again and again and again. So that's always been our position. And I just wanted to make that clear. For those of you who have never watched our content, who might be here for the first time, I have no idea whether or not Richard Allen's guilty, because, again, I don't know what the evidence is. I wait until trial. I wait until it's vetted. And then we can all come to a conclusion. And that's all I'm ever asking people to do. Quit trying to make people out to be guilty. We all have opinions initially. I do, you do, we all do. But I never come to a final opinion until I've heard the evidence vetted at trial, because that's the only time that matters. So, all right, I'm done.
All right. So
that was a 10-minute rant.
Yeah.
Yeah, figures.
So
Now,
Michael, go ahead.
Before we get to, well, I just wanted to say, you mentioned this right to a speedy trial, and I think, the whole allegation of jury tampering is more important, but that's just a perfect lead-in. If I can hijack this for just a couple of minutes.
Absolutely.
To one terrible misimpression that the Murder Myths podcast episodes put out. And I'm going to read real quick something off of Reddit. And somebody wrote, "It is both gratifying and infuriating to see how clearly this gang knew the defense was ready for trial." We're talking about May. Motto was especially, they knew the defense wasn't ready. They knew it was a bad idea to try to go for a speedy trial. And yet again and again and again, from anyone in this gang or anyone who listens to them, I yelled at that Brad and B and R were ready. It's all Gull's fault for not giving limited time at trial. No, they weren't ready. They would have done anything on any reason to get out of going to trial in May. That is just untrue. Bob and I both thought going to trial in May was a terrible idea.
Me too.
There was a whole bunch more investigation to be done. That was not our call. It was Brad and Andy's call.
Not your ready. Call. Not even, it's not even an issue that you have any right to giving input on.
Well,
or at least Bob has no right.
I mean, I don't.
At least Bob having no right to give input on. You're a different situation.
Well, right. No, I mean, I've got right to have input on it. I mean, I actually wrote to Brad and Andy. I mean, I input. I wrote to them saying, "You all sure about this?" And they had. I think they had a client they were afraid might not live until October. Plus, they have a lot of very good stuff. I mean, I'm sure they do. They were ready, and it was absolutely entirely Gull unwilling to give them the time they needed. And it wasn't unlimited time. It wasn't the same time as McClelland would have gotten. They needed whatever time they needed to put their case on. And that's kind of what, Brad meant when he said to Gull, "You don't know this case." She doesn't, and she shouldn't.
Right.
And
well, she should, from what she could have gleaned from the Frank's motions, which were a lot, but otherwise, right.
Yeah, but she doesn't know what's in the discovery. She doesn't know what it's going to take to put that case on. She doesn't know. I mean, she doesn't know the case.
I did want to just say on that point, I'm sorry to cut you off, Michael, that there were like kind of two sides to this. Was the defense ready? Like before, like when she was taking them off and they were trying to do the speedy trial, we assumed they're ready. They're saying they're ready. They clearly believed they were ready. So at some point that was the factor. But then as motions were coming out and it was like, we don't have this and we don't know this. And we're like, hello, there's a lot of research, a lot of investigation still needs to get done. There's a lot of things that still need to get done. These guys aren't ready. And, we all voiced that publicly to you guys. So each of you can state that. But it's the same thing they said. That actually, Michael, I put like a little note to myself while I was listening to the episodes about that like specific thing. And I wrote EP2 from 38 to 36 to 39. I wrote, and this was like a note to myself, perfect and very clear example of the misreporting and the fact that MS is unaware of our actual content on D&D. MS puts forth that the blaming of the state and the judge is all a spin. And that would be for the blaming for the speedy trial is all a spin because behind the scenes, And in parentheticals to myself, I write, presented as a seeming bombshell, Bob said the defense was not ready and needed to seek a continuance. However, they do this by allegedly quoting, again, I haven't seen the message, language from Bob's alleged message that mirrors exactly what Bob and I say publicly.
So and you know, this will to address. So Bob was talking about, you know, the ethics of talking about defense strategy. I really got two major roles in this, and a third very minor one, which was kind of fun. But one, I've been something of a fact tip line for them, and you know, people get in touch with me with stuff, and I do some of my own vetting of stuff first before bothering with them with it, before, you know, figuring out, you know, is this you all to look into? But other thing I do, and it's related, is, you know, I've sent them probably 10 to 15 really important things that I think need to be investigated. I've been a post-conviction lawyer for 24 years. These are the things I tell them that would be the first, or have told them, be the first things that if you don't do it, I'm, as the post-conviction lawyer, I'm going to do it. And they have to be done. And the reason they have to be done is probably half of them are potentially case ending, depending on the result of the investigation. So, and that gets me back to something that Kevin said. I'm not as deep as Allie. She's got the timestamps. I was just
that was the only one.
That was the only one. Dozing off and listening. And, you know, he tried, Kevin, who just knows nothing about this kind of work, tried to excoriate me for saying that there was in the group chat that I thought there was a fair chance that the case against Rick Allen is going to get dismissed. And he went off on this thing that, you know, the state's case is not weak. It doesn't serve Rick Allen, blah, 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 to underestimate the case. And by the way, his case for the state, for Rick Allen, I think it had 3 points: presence, the bullet, and the confessions. And in fact, there might be a fourth leg. I'm trying to think what it is, but there might, I mean, they may have a fourth leg there. To start with, I only said there was a fair. Well, first, let me say, I do federal habeas. Those are the hardest kind of cases to win. You can't even think about winning until you have figured out all the ways you lose.
Right.
We win half our cases. I am more aware than Kevin Greenlee will ever be about the strength or weakness of the state's case, at least as it exists on the outside of what we know of.
Right, from a legal perspective, not from a factual perspective, because we
well,
don't know.
No, I mean, even
the facts that we know. Sorry.
Yeah, from the facts we know. And when I said there was a fair chance that the case against Rick Allen was going to be dismissed, to start with, at least on a scale of poor, fair, good, and excellent, fair is fair. I mean, it's not, I'm not making any giant claims here, but I think that there is a serious possibility, a fair chance, that the botched investigation by the police, law enforcement, McClelland, improved upon perhaps by the defense team, will produce something that makes this case go away against Rick Allen. And, you know, a friend of mine, really brilliant friend of mine out in Washington State, former graduate degree in philosophy, says actuality is the best proof of possibility. Look what happened in Alec Baldwin's case. You know, the right thing comes up, and, you know, I think there's a lot a lot of investigating still to be done, even after 7 years, 7 years and counting. It's just, you know, feel free to disagree with me about whether the state's case is strong or weak or whatever. But, you know, to say that because I say that I think there's a fair chance that the case against Rick Allen will be dismissed is, you know, shows I'm a terrible lawyer. It's just it's
And
really
you know, the
beyond
other thing
belief.
in that vein though, Michael, is like you're saying it in a well, I don't know, maybe you've said it publicly as well. But you guys are saying things in a private discussion, voicing your private thoughts or your thoughts that you're not, you know, not presenting to the free world, and then they're taking them and presenting them to the free world. And it's just a little bit
Yeah,
crazy.
Well,
yeah,
and
but I
beyond that, they're putting up like notices that I'll put up in our Facebook group. You know, just be kind, and I have a general rule of thumb that, you know, if you're going to type a public comment to somebody that you wouldn't say to their face, don't type it. So they then try to use that when using my private messages after they've invaded my privacy to make some kind of bizarre point, which we're talking about private versus public. And for those of you out there that are sitting there thinking that it's okay, because I don't care who owned that Twitter account, whether it's Angela, Courtney, and whoever the other dude is. Like, I honestly don't even know who he is, or it was a combination of the three of them. Like that dude is who turned it over. But I know that Angela's, like, that was her baby. Like the unraveling was her baby. And whatever happened with those three, I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know what the fallout was, but you know, he then decides to turn over all of those private messages. Wasn't with my consent. You know, I mean, technically, is there a violation of the law? I don't know. But ethically, if you're cool with that, then I mean, you probably don't want to hang around on our channel, because like that's not how I operate. I would never go into somebody's private shit and post it for the world.
I
And
wouldn't
then
even read someone's. If someone wanted to share with me the private messages of someone, I'd be like, no, no, thank you. You know, and then
it's
the
just
other thing
it's
from that
weird.
episode was that they were taking, I don't know if it was 3 different chats, but there was a chat stream that you and Michael and Cara are involved in with everybody. And then there's a chat stream, I think just between um the unraveling people. So they're sort of saying beforehand, like in a chat between so and so and so and so, but the way that they're combining the two to make it seem like it's all the same thing. Like maybe they should have done a completely separate episode on their investigative journalism of people's chat messages that involved what those people said in their chat, and then a separate one of what you guys all said in this group chat, because there were a lot of um you know, discussions that had nothing to do with you guys. But this is not a Proctor scenario. These are not law enforcement investigating a crime, speaking to their bosses and speaking in their professional capacity. This is a just private discussion amongst friends that someone decided to share, and someone else decided could be investigative reporting if we shift everything the way we want it to come off. And I'm going to get into that. I want to give it back to Michael to finish where he was going, though.
Well, where I was going is I'm less scandalized. I mean, I hate it that it happened to, you know, you, Bob, and the women in the group, and to Cara. I do care about that. The fact that somebody stole my texts and put them out there, just assume they're going to end up on the front. Stuff in text like that are going to end up on the front page of the New York Times anyway. And I stand by everything I said anywhere in those. And and I didn't say, I thought there was a fair chance the case against Rick Allen would be dismissed as anything hidden. I mean, it's what I think, and it's what I'm going to say in public too. I mean, there's nothing there I'm embarrassed about or going to walk back. And that when I was so there was a brief exchange about my thinking that there was some proof that the now famous leak actually had very little to do with Westerman and came from other places. And then Greenlee said, well, and then he seemed to walk it back. And it's like, no, I didn't walk it back. I said it wasn't conclusive, but like the state's case against Brad and Andy wasn't conclusive either. and my point about that, and I actually did a live on the RNW channel, where I actually said exactly, so it wasn't private, I said exactly the same thing here with the receipts. Here are the texts and things, and here are the and here's the case that the leak did not come from Brad and Andy, period. And yeah, I said it wasn't conclusive, but it was as good as the state. I really haven't said anything in that chat group that I'm not willing to say in public.
Yeah, me either. But so, all right, but I want you to specifically address the issue that they raised of jury tampering. Like, I want you to kind of explain to people, as somebody who actually understands the law in terms of criminal law, how that works. Like what's allowable, what's not allowable, and all those different things.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Look, it's obvious it's not allowable to get, stalk and harass prospective jurors. I mean, and people who are saying anybody was planning to do that, it's just absurd. And in fact happened was when I saw how many juror questionnaires were coming out, and a little before they were coming out, it occurred to me that, Brad and Andy might need help with vetting 600 juror questionnaires. And when I asked them about it, they said, yeah, they were interested. That's all they said. I didn't get any inside information. And when the juror questionnaires, I don't know what's in them. I never found out what was in them. But I got a criminal justice professor I know who's actually done vetting of juror questionnaires in capital cases. And, that person said, maybe 16 to 20 can be done in the time allotted. And obviously that wasn't nearly, we needed more help. So, I got onto my students, and then one of the women in the group said she'd do it even if she had to sign an NDA. And there was never any question. Nobody was going to see a single juror questionnaire without an NDA. It just wasn't going to happen, ever. Not no way, not no how.
Right.
And vetting jurors is entirely normal. I mean, for at least two reasons. And Bob, you might come up with more because you're the trial lawyer. One, you want to see what their public presence is if they've expressed an opinion about the case. And two, you want to find out, you want to have information about them, because in a high case, some number of jurors, it is highly likely, are going to lie. Once they realize they're on this high profile case, they're going to lie in order to get onto the jury. And you want to be able to, you won't succeed every time by any means, but you want to have the information to do it with.
Right. No, there's no question. I mean, so, and I wanted Cara to come on, but like
I did some research, babe. So let me
I was going to bring up the one ABA article that can explain to people what the actual issue is with, wanting to vet the jurors before they come in. Like, And it was funny that Murder Sheet decided to include me asking about how it works there, because in Illinois, we only get our jurors sheets the morning of trial. So we don't get them, our juror information sheets, ahead of time. I mean, I wish we did, so that we could dig in, we can look on socials, because you're always trying to find bias. You're always trying to kind of get into the mindset of jurors, because both sides, in all honesty, want a juror that hasn't formed an opinion. What you want is that unformed piece of clay, so that they come in there just completely oblivious to what the case is about, what the facts of the case may be. They've heard none of the chatter from anywhere, and they're just coming in just a completely unmolded piece of clay. So that's the goal. That's the goal for the state. That's the goal for the defense. It's the goal for the judge. That's what all of us want. Every professional in that room are unbiased jurors. So, and it's tough. Like I always say, the toughest thing of not only the toughest, but the most critical aspect of any trial is picking the jury. I mean, because everything ultimately rests in their hands in terms of, what they're going to decide. And it's nice to be able to try to get information about the jurors in terms of trying to figure out, are they biased? Do they have biases? Whether it's factual to the case or whether it's overall, I mean, you're always trying to kind of get into those little crevices, because the more you can figure out about the jurors, the better off you are in terms of, do you want to use a challenge to get rid of them? Or have you found something that would say, okay, look, we think that this juror should be excused for cause? And so, Alison, were you going to bring up that ABA article? Because I think it's short, it's sweet, and it really kind of breaks down the ability of attorneys to be able to dig into people's social media in order to try to call some information about them.
I don't know that we read the same one. So if you've got some from a specific, and tell people what the ABA is.
So that's the American Bar Association. I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to actually, I want to put it up over here. So Cara had sent me this yesterday. So yeah, the ABA is the American Bar Association. Lawyers can snoop on jurors' social media sites. Andrew Chow, Esquire, a lawyer, had written this back March 21st of 2019. And it's a short read, so I'm going to read through it. It says, jurors are always admonished by judges not to conduct any independent factual research with respect to the cases they are considering. In this way, the rules of evidence will be adhered to, and jurors will only be permitted to evaluate evidence deemed admissible and relevant by the judge. But what about lawyers? How much sleuthing can they do with respect to potential and actual jurors for their cases? Can they, for example, snoop on social media sites to learn more? We'll read on. Researching potential jurors. We know that lawyers can conduct a certain level of research when it comes to potential jurors. For example, when I previously worked as a prosecutor, we were provided in advance with information relating to the geographic demographics of potential jurors, as well as their prior run-ins with the law. Potential jurors from one part of the county were known as prosecution-oriented, while the opposite was true of those from another part of the county. Also, potential jurors who had previously been arrested or convicted were thought not to be prosecution friendly. Thus, during jury selection, efforts were made to maximize the odds of jurors who might be prosecution inclined based on the foregoing information obtained. An entire cottage industry has developed when it comes to jury selection. There are many jury consultants now plying their trade, and at times they even sit at counsel's table in the courtroom, helping the lawyers decide whom to try to keep or not keep on the jury based on information such as gender, age, occupation, and other variables. However, do lawyers and their consultants go too far to find out more by visiting the social media sites of potential and actual jurors? Somewhat amazingly, the ABA's answer is no. Or put it another way, yes, social media sites can be checked out. Jury consultants will like this. Yes, indeed, the ABA has determined that it is ethical for lawyers to look at publicly available social media posts of prospective and actual jurors. The only caveat is that the ABA cautions against lawyers actively friending or following these people or otherwise gaining access to them via private internet spaces. Perhaps the ABA's guidance is not all that shocking. public information is public information and should not be precluded from use by lawyers in their jury machinations just because that information shows up on social media sites. Some might argue. Others might take the position that even though some social media posts are publicly available, this just goes too far and is too invasive. One thing is for sure, though, the depth and breadth of the jury research will be exponentially expanded under this new regime. And this cottage industry might come more and more outside of the cottage. Plus, thorough jury research of social media sites could become very expensive, as social media searches can be very time consuming, with further time incurred leading to more costly jury consultant bills. At the end of the day, will information from social media posts lead to a better jury selection process? Not necessarily. If both sides to a case utilize this information, there could be nullification, each side challenging the best potential jurors for the other side, pushing towards a balanced jury in the middle. So there you go. I thought that was pretty interesting. And it gives you a pretty good insight into what's allowable as far as digging into potential jurors. Now, like I said, I mean, Alison and I really don't have the ability to be able to do it because we don't get any advance notice of who our jurors are going to be. Like I said, we get our sheets the morning that we show up to court. So, you know, that for us, it's like, and I've talked about it on lives again, like I'm typically trying to go onto people's Facebook pages. Like if we have a case that we feel that, you know, it may lean a certain way politically, and we're looking for a certain type of juror, like those are the kind of people that we're going to say, okay, this would be a good juror for us. So these are the types of folks that we'd like to get on there. You know, so you're always just trying to kind of broadly figure out who would be the best fit. And I thought that the paragraph talking about, you know, we know of counties that are far more conservative and far more liberal, you know, in terms of where you want to pick your juries from, and depending on which side you're on or what you're trying to argue. So, I mean, those are all factors that come in, but I mean, selecting the jury is an absolutely imperative part of the trial process. And I would argue that it's the most important part of it, because ultimately, like I said, you know, everything lays within their hands.
So, and I pulled from the 7th district. Now this is a Northern District of Illinois case, but it's the 7th Circuit, which includes Indiana. And this is was from a motion in limine in 2021, where the plaintiff in that case was seeking to bar the defendant, and the defendant was a state defendant, a government actor, police, whomever it may be, from conducting background checks on jurors, including using law enforcement databases. The 7th Circuit has yet to consider the question of whether parties are barred from running background checks on potential jurors, and judges within this district are split on the question, with some allowing background checks on law enforcement databases and some not. This court is persuaded that the benefits of allowing background checks to combat potential juror bias and to promote judicial efficiency outweigh the potential downside if the background checks are conducted under the conditions specified below. In particular, the defendant must, 1, conduct the background checks in accordance with the schedule specified by the court. 2, any objection not raised prior or during voir dire are waived. And 3, the background checks must be performed on all jurors, not just certain jurors. And 4, defense counsel shall share the results of the background checks with plaintiff's counsel and the court. Accordingly, plaintiff's motion is granted in part and denied in part. Now, what their issue was this is unfair because they're able to do more background checks and digging into vetting the jurors than the plaintiff could, because they're also using databases of law enforcement and things that the plaintiff didn't have access to. So that's sort of what the issue was there, of them saying that the circuit is split. But what I've seen from, you know, the research that I have done is that the courts are saying, for example, in a 2021 federal case in the District of Columbia, the court found that the defendant was denied a new trial because the information that they found on a juror, they found some stuff on his social media posts that he had done that that he's not entitled to a new trial because it was available had the lawyers done their due diligence beforehand, had they conducted searches, had they used Google, had they used the internet, had they dug in. They chose not to do it. It's not newly discovered. It's waived. So the courts do recognize that there is obviously any sort of, vetting of jurors has to be done, correctly. And like you mentioned in that article, you can't friend them, follow them leaning like they see that your name is there. And it's a balance between, not wanting jurors to feel um, intimidated or scared that people are gonna do background searches on them, but that all public information is fair game. And again, this is not something that Bob and I do because we don't get the names ahead of time, although we do and have done it when we're in trial and we have our laptops there, um, a quick search of the jurors. And I actually found a case that spoke to that. So it was, damn it, if I'm not going to be able to find it now. Um, okay. The defense chose, so in this case, they said, um, wait, why can't I open this up? Okay, preview. All right. The defense chose not to conduct internet research on the foreperson despite her disclosure that she used social media. Defendant states that he became aware of the foreperson's social media comments at trial following a Facebook post. And then the court goes, it's all well too long. And actually that's the one from 2020, United States versus Stone. I was trying to find the one where and I'll just tell you guys what happened. But the lawyer in that case had his laptop with him, and he was, oh, I have it. Okay. Courts are not only recognizing the right to perform such research, but even imposing in one jurisdiction, Missouri, an affirmative duty to do so. In Carino v. Muenzen, a New Jersey medical malpractice case, the appellate court considered the plaintiff's attorney's request for a new trial after the lawyer had been prevented by the judge from conducting online research on the veneer panel. That means all the potential prospective jurors. As jury selection began, defense counsel objected when he noticed his adversary accessing the internet on his laptop. After acknowledging to the court that he was Googling the potential jurors and pointing out, we've done it all the time, everyone does it, it's not unusual, the plaintiff's attorney was stunned when the court refused to allow it. The trial judge felt allowing such juror research would jeopardize maintaining a fair and even playing field. That's because the other lawyer didn't have his laptop with him to do the same. Although the appellate court affirmed the defense verdict on other grounds, it explicitly recognized the right to use internet to investigate potential jurors during voir dire and concluded that the trial judge had acted unreasonably in preventing use of the internet by plaintiff's counsel. The court, and then it goes on to the court held that there was no suggestion that counsel's use of the computer was in any way disruptive, that it had the foresight to bring his laptop computer to court, and defense counsel did not, simply cannot serve as a basis for judicial intervention in the name of fairness or maintaining a level playing field. The playing field was in fact already level because internet access was open to both counsel, even only if only one chose to utilize it. And there's just many other examples of that. So, for them to take it and make it seem like people were just going to give, whether it be Sleuthy, who was volunteering, or anybody else, just willy-nilly access to all the veneers private information. You heard Michael, he's actually involved in it, and he is actually doing it. And they're, anyone that's touching any sort of prospective jury information is doing so under a non-disclosure. And I don't think that there should be any sort of shade cast on Sleuthy for volunteering to help vet. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, people are paid to do it. Jury consultants are paid to do it.
Yes.
Like the whole concept that they brought up is utter bullshit. Period. End of conversation. You can keep going with it all you want, and the more that you do, the more ignorant you look of the law and how the process works. I'm just telling you that if you want to take Kevin Greenlee's, like his sage legal advice, that's on you. Or you can take it from people who actually practice criminal law. That's your decision, and I can't control that.
In a whole field of jury consultants.
Like, I mean, look, and like I've seen a couple questions. Like people are asking. B-Dubs is asking me. I want to find it. I started because I find it.
Well, while you're looking for that, let me just say somebody was asking. So, what are the qualifications of the people who are going to help? No, that was why we had the person with experience. That person was going to, who'd done capital cases before, was going to give us the list of things to do, in vetting the jurors. I mean, it's just, there was absolutely nothing wrong with it. Nobody was ever going to go try and find jurors and harass them, or prospective jurors, harass them or stalk them. And as I said in the tweet thread of yesterday, one of the women in the group got an email from somebody who said a friend of a person a juror questionnaire, and the first thing I said was, "Don't go anywhere near that."
Right.
Yeah, no,
I mean, you can't do that.
Right. Yeah. There's right. You know.
And then
like,
before you answer that.
Because like that was my comment, that the nutsos are gonna, like, anything that you do, like outside of this, especially in this case, that the nutsos are going to construe it and they're going to twist it into being jury tampering,
which we
they
just
have no
saw
idea what they're
nutsos
talking
do,
about.
as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, look,
and so I want to let me just quote. So I went to a couple jury consultant sites and I did this real quick. So we have Vision and Company, quote, experts in courtroom persuasion and jury selection model since 1976. This is direct from their, website. So we conduct jury consultants today routinely conduct searches for publicly available information on prospective jurors, voter registration rolls, court records, as well as publicly viewable postings on social media outlets, and they list them all. In addition to questionnaires, the trial team, this is another from their website. Oh no, it's the same thought. If you have access to a list of the jury pool in advance, we can provide a database of internet information for each name that you can review and bring with you during voir dire. Providing us with details of the case can help us perform the most accurate search. And most of their team, a lot of their teams were actually lawyers, but that was Total Trial Solutions that said, if you have access to a list of jury pool, we can help you, blah, blah, blah. So, and that same one, Total Trial Solutions, LLC, this one's in New York. That last one, actually, I forget where they were, the other one, but they said, we can help you select the best possible jury by providing real-time database and social media background checks of potential jurors, in addition to obtaining a comprehensive persons report from LexisNexis. Our detailed-oriented researchers look for jurors' presence on social media to expose beliefs, values, lifestyles, and potential biases. These checks provide you with necessary information, not obvious during voir dire, so you may make informed decisions about whether to accept or reject a potential juror. And one more, I think, was from, I think it was the same place. Oh, this is a Magna Legal Services. A team of Magna researchers can also be engaged to run background checks and social media searches on prospective jurors using our Jury Scout program. These searches can afford the trial team deeper insight into the jurors' worldviews, predispositions, and potential verdict orientation that is typically possible through in-court voir dire alone. Jury Scout media search results can be critical in helping make more informed preemptory challenges. And this is under their jury consulting in high value cases. And they said recently prospective, and they list prospective juror background and social media searches. And it says Indiana, Iowa. So Indiana was included within the states that they have done that in. And that's just, again, there is an entire field dedicated to doing this. And it's just someone doing research. You don't need anything more than a Google search, really, to
and I guarantee you that if Brad and Andy had hired any of those firms, they'd have NDAs.
Right.
I mean, it's just preposterous.
Yeah, I mean, look, dude.
And that's what happens when you listen to non-practicing lawyers come up with bizarre scenarios, reading the private messages.
And honestly, they're actively disrespecting, disrespectful to the families, judge, prosecutor, and MS. And Mike, I don't know who Mike is.
Well, wait, first, I want to, before you answer it, Bob, that the messages that they read about the family members was not a group message. I think that was just between the unraveling folks. Now, the one where Bob said he didn't want to miss a vacation and the judge was a bitch, that's the one that he was party to.
Yeah, that was me. Or it was just one of her rulings. You know, what I say privately is my business. And I'm not going to apologize for a goddamn thing. You know, I think that the judge has absolutely butchered this case. Period. That has been my.
And you didn't want to miss a vacation.
And it had been like repeatedly, you know, that she's filed like two years in a row. She held hearings on Halloween so that people with kids have to miss But besides, that's my personal thing.
Yeah, and nobody went after Dave Hennessy for saying after the October 31st hearing last year that Judge Gull left her broomstick behind.
Look, I am respectful of the judge in the public domain. Whatever I say behind closed doors is my business. And if the murder sheet wants to put it out there, like I'm telling you, the only move that I can see from them trying to do that is hoping that Judge Gull, who is definitely aware of my presence, is going to ban me from the courtroom. Like that's the only reason that I could see them putting that out there. Could you imagine getting their private messages? Oh, what a web that must weave. I mean, that must be unbelievable. So, but to answer that, no. Like, did you pull that down?
Sorry,
I thought you did. Hold on. So, B-Dubs, so here's your answer. So, when I first got into the podcast game, I heard certain things about MS from various creators that were in it. And my position with everybody, whether it's creators or whether it's human beings, is I don't take anybody's word for anything. I base my opinion on people, on my individual interactions with those people, and that alone, because I don't know what other people's context is. I don't know what other beef people may have with other people that doesn't have anything to do with me. So whether or not someone else hates someone else is none of my business. So when I heard things coming into the game from various creators that had been in it much longer than I had, and you're like, oh, you know, watch out for them, whatever. I paid it no mind. All right. And you know, at some point, when they were taking a bunch of heat on whatever the Keegan Klein or the Ron Logan probable cause affidavit being released, like a lot of people were coming from them or coming at them. And I had made like one tweet that was rather innocuous, but and I don't even remember what it was. But like when I tried to join their group about 2 years ago, something like that, maybe a year and a half ago, they vetted me for like an hour and a half before they let me into their group, which absolutely flame throws me. Like I've got enough people in there. I like for them to be talking about like anybody in our group, when I constantly tell them not to not besmirch other creators, they absolutely allow for people to flame throw me in that group. And that's fine. That's how they operate. That's not what I do. You know, so when Kevin or Anya, whichever one of them, because they don't actually talk to me on the phone ever, or have me on their show for an interview ever, despite the fact that I've asked, they turned the last time they did a hit piece on me when I was in Mexico, and I emailed them back you know, because they send an email. What they do is they send it 5 minutes before they're going to publish an episode. So it doesn't really give me an opportunity to respond. But they don't want me on the show. They don't want to interview or have a discussion, which could be a fascinating discussion. If they've got legitimate questions, I'm always available to answer them. Always. I am never hiding behind anything. If you've got direct questions, you know, if you're fans of the Murder Sheet, say, hey, have Bob on. I'd love to have these discussions with them because I have questions for them.
I would put up a fight and not want you to grace your presence.
Well, whatever. The point being, I
invited
them here tonight, and they didn't even respond to my email. You know, I would, and this wasn't going to be some kind of bloodletting. I would have let them get on and ask me anything they wanted. And if they're going to suggest I'm a shill or being paid by the defense, ask me any questions you want. Ask me. A shill for the defense would seem to be like trying to imply that Rick Allen's factually innocent and trying to, like, all my videos would be about how Rick Allen's factually innocent. And again, none of our content speaks for itself. And if you're in our chat talking shit, if you never watched our content, then like what you're saying has no value. You know what I mean? Because like we've always had the position, and Michael, you're far more stringent. You're in a much more like I would call it compelling position with respect to whether or not Allen's guilty or innocent than I am. You know, it's like I'm waiting till trial. You're more convinced than I am, but
look, you know, I think it would be interesting to do a separate show, you know, if not with you, maybe with somebody, about why, sort of to a clear and convincing evidence, I think Rick Allen is innocent. I'm totally persuadable. I really don't want to go into that now. You know, you all have your podcast and this channel, and you're making a business out of it by saying interesting things to people that people want to hear. My interest in this case, in a way, is, or at least part of it, is that, you know, I truly think that a wrongful conviction is happening here, is underway, and that you know, doing the work I do, I know it is easier to prevent conviction than it is to undo it. And to the extent that I can contribute to the lawyers, the actual defense team's effort in that respect, that's great. And then the reason I'm out here in public is it kind of happened accidentally. It's all your fault, actually, Bob, for reading something of mine in front of 800 people.
Sorry, man.
And people then, for whatever reason, thought that what I had to say on occasion was interesting. It actually goes back to the Murder Sheet. I mean, I had a terrific conversation with them about, you know, where the thing in the Supreme Court was going right after the papers have been filed. So this was in December, after the papers had been filed, but before the oral argument. And you know, I got a lot of heat from their following about the apparently extremely unpopular position that Mitch Westerman committed no crime. I mean, I actually got hate mail about that. Yeah, really bad behavior, but I don't think there was any crime there. But I had a terrific conversation with them, and you know, the Murder Sheet, when I've said this on Twitter, I've said it, I think, on lives. You know, when they have great guests on, and I don't mean me, you know, maybe I was great, maybe I wasn't, but the stuff of theirs, when they've had great guests on, it's terrific. It's just that when they become the ethical and moral arbiters of the world, they're insufferable and they're wrong.
Yeah, and look, like to finish my I have no idea what their beef with Unraveling was or is. It still seems to be very much ongoing. but it's not my business. Like I have no context to what created the beef between the two of them. And I just know that it's gotten exceptionally ugly. And anything that I've seen in terms of my personal dealings with Angela and Courtney, they've been nothing but cordial and polite with me and kind to me. So again, I base my my experiences on people is what I gauge them on. And just because other people have beef with other people doesn't mean that I have to have beef with them as well, because I don't know Kevin and Anya from a hole in the ground. I have no. I've seen them twice in person. Had a brief conversation one time at the courthouse, and other than that, I don't know anything about them. Nothing. And I'm not sitting around, as much as they like to think that I'm living rent free in their head. I could care less. I know nothing about them. I've done no research on them. I don't know.
You haven't read their private chat messages?
No, but like my point being, like, it's just like I've got better shit to do. I just do. Like I'm busy. Like Delphi's not my only case. We're covering a lot of stuff.
Answer the question that was put to you about why you were involved with why you're involved with Angela, Courtney, and Nicole, and for me, it's that, and I think this will lead in a minute to I think one of the points at least I want to make about for Cara and her bullet point list. I got into this case because the lawyers were removed. I'm interested in public defense. I have been I was contract counsel to the state public defender for 10 years. And basically, I'm a self-appointed public defender in federal court. You don't get lawyers in federal habeas. And, that's why we take on these cases we think we can win. People who don't have lawyers. What I thought happened to Brad and Ann, terrible and as well as unconstitutional. But
Here.
That said, I hadn't followed Delphi at all. The Franks memo caused a minor sensation on the public defender listserv that I'm on. So I knew about that, but I didn't know anything about the facts of the case. And, after I showed up in the, with the motion to summarily deny McClellan's contempt thingy, I got invited into the group, the due process gang, by I don't know, I think it might have been Angela, I don't know which one it was, and I was happy to go there because women have followed this case for years. They know facts I don't know. I'm there out there with knowing facts. So if I'm gonna
they know me way more about the facts than I do. Same.
And if I'm going to act as both a factual tip line and a legal tip line to Brad and Andy, knowing some facts. I went out. I've asked all kinds of questions in that chat about, what do you know about this person? What do you know about that person? So that I'm not sending stuff on that they're going to want, that Brad and Andy are going to waste time on, or Matt Hoffman, their investigator, is going to waste time on, that they've already maybe wasted time on. Who knows? They know a lot, and I like them, and so I that's why I'm involved with them.
Right. And Bob and I are in the same scenario. Factually, we didn't know anything other than what was put in the post conviction. The my lord, probable cause affidavit, and then what came out in the Franks memo. So there's a whole world of things that that other people who have been digging in, factually to this case and the investigation and all of that know that that Bob and I don't know. And that's one of the funny things that I thought. They kept trying to paint this picture that I don't know which lawyers, if they meant the actual defense lawyers or if they meant like you, Bob, Cara, and Michael were trying to rile up the non-lawyers and manipulating the non-lawyers to say things publicly. But then Paul, the person who shared these messages, he presented that there was information. Now, I'm not saying this is true. I'm just saying this is what they put out there in the episode, that there was information that he had and that the Unraveling had that the rest of the group didn't have, that he thought Unraveling should share with the rest of the group so that they were more enlightened about. I couldn't exactly tell what it was, but it seemed that he thought something that somebody said in a message that was not the main group, that did not involve Bob, Karen, Michael, it's indicated some sort of thought that it demonstrated guilt or something like that, that he thought everyone else should know that everyone else didn't know. So I'm like, so which way are you saying it? Are you saying that they withheld information from the lawyers to manipulate the lawyers such that the lawyers didn't change their gut opinion as to which way the evidence was leaning? Or are you saying that the lawyers were manipulating the lay people? I don't know. A lot of it didn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense, but it was definitely sort of being spoken out of two sides of a mouth in that regard.
Let me get to the point I'd like to make on Cara's behalf, and that is, so I was listening to a live from last night by a guy here in Bloomington who chooses to share his platform with leakers and hackers, and they were trying to make a big deal about why is Cara even there if she's asking for bullet points about Rick Allen's innocence. Cara Wieneke isn't in this about Rick Allen's innocence. She's in this. She's a public defender. She's appointed in dozens of cases. She doesn't have time to be up on the frigging facts. It's the due process gang, folks. It's fair trials. That's what she's interested in. She's interested in making sure, Rick Allen has the lawyers he wants.
Due process. They call that due process.
And the fact that Cara Wieneke doesn't know the facts of the case well enough, and need to have her own bullet points of why Rick Allen is innocent, it
defies. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it defies everything they're saying, that you guys have this insider knowledge and you're sharing it or exploiting it, or you're an arm of the defense and you know all the facts, no facts that the public doesn't know, and then are sharing them. I mean, clearly this is not Cara also does not have the discovery in this case, and the lawyers are not sharing that. And that's not something that if they were sharing that, she wouldn't need to ask people who have been, more involved from a factual standpoint of how the investigation went and things of that nature.
And let me since we're on Cara and inside information, the murder sheet and others have tried to make some sort of hay out of the fact that Cara was on the other side of, and I think it was Brad's phone day of the contempt hearing, and somehow that was inside information. No, Cara and I had my appearance ready to go, and I had the bones of a motion. I was going to stick onto it the motion for summary denial of McClelland's contempt thingy, because if Judge Gull had thrown Brad and Andy into jail, we were going to the Court of Appeals within an hour of that happening if she denied a stay. And, you know, I'm sorry, that's just the way, you know, that was just good planning.
And Michael, people don't understand that the defense bar, like, we're a village. Like, defense attorneys understand what it takes and what it means and how exhausting and gut-wrenching it is to fight against the government for decades. You know, all of us have done it for decades. Like, fighting the government. That's literally what we're doing. Every single case is we're fighting the government, and we help each other. Like, if I've written, if like we need a motion because it's like a novel issue, we'll like, I mean, there's virtual like websites that exist that has defense bar guys and gals on there that will upload their pleadings so that you can pull off and use it as you know, a bare bones kind of like boilerplate motion. Then you fill in the blanks, man. Like that's how it's done. Like we all work together. Like the defense bar in Indiana and around the country, really, when they saw what was happening in Delphi, that's why it became a case. That's why it became a case of national interest post Abby and Libby in the 5 years. Like,
and it happens in the Supreme Court and every other court where outside parties for the defense bar file what's called amicus briefs. I'm not a party to this case, but you know what? We've got a point we want to make from the defense bar over here, and you know, we want to speak up. So a group of lawyers will get together and pipe in and make a position that they might think that the other side's not making as strong as it should be made, for the defense bar. So whenever Bob's talking, even on a case where we believed that that in the courtroom and factually someone was guilty, such as Lori Vallow, for example, we are still the voice of the defense as far as the way we are looking at it from a defense perspective, analyzing the law from a defense perspective. That doesn't mean that we think that the person is innocent or has been proven innocent in a court of law. So to take, you know, out of context a comment that, you know, Bob doesn't mind being the voice for the defense and then saying that he's a shill for the defense, it's just so ridiculously disingenuous that it made me personally want to puke all over myself. But
oh yeah, well, look, and again, our content speaks for itself. Like, Allie and I are defense lawyers. We come from, like, that is our lens in which we view everything. Like,
and many times we gave an opinion that we, you know, didn't think a motion was made a certain good point or should have been done differently, or we would have argued it differently.
I've been very critical of many of the things that have come out of this case from the defense side of it in terms of the pleadings. And when
Michael has too.
Well, and to my point, and to Michael's point, when, you know, I read what I felt was the most brilliant piece of legal writing that was put in by anybody on the defense side, it happened to be Mr. Ausbrook's his motion, you know, for a summary finding on that. Like, it was brilliant. It was brilliantly written. I appreciated every word of it.
Founded.
Yeah, it was based in case law. It had beautiful argument. It was funny. It had, you know, like the older than dirt thing. I loved everything about it, you know. So, but when I'm reading through some of Andy's stuff, he has a tendency to be a little flowy, like some of his stuff. And I still enjoy reading it from a defense attorney's perspective. I think it could probably be edited like, Andy has a tendency to repeat himself quite a bit, but I think, and I think that he does that because I think he truly believes that Gull hasn't read anything that preceded it, you know, so he'll repeat things over and over in motions because I think that it is of his like absolute opinion that Gull hasn't read any of his like previous pleadings. So he's repeating it over and over again, and he'll repeat it within the same document just in case she's scanning.
Well, and trial lawyers are people in a hurry. I mean, Delphi's not his only case. I know that for a fact.
Sure.
Trial lawyers are people in a hurry. And so there are typos, and there are, you know, I think it's funny, people, well, people criticize, I don't know, me for somehow being in cahoots with the defense. I wish the defense would have consulted me more often about a few of the pleadings. And a few important ones that I can think of, I really think they left important stuff out and put really silly stuff in. Their call, they didn't ask me, but I'm going to tell you what I think.
And you have on our show, and we've read them on, and Bob and I have as well. And, so I just wanted to, to mention that, first of all, the episodes are very misleading. Sometimes they use the defense team, and then sometimes they use the lawyers. Neither Bob or Cara or Michael are part of the defense team, and most especially not Bob.
I'm not licensed in Indiana. Couldn't be on the defense team.
Right.
I will say this: if I were licensed in Indiana, I would have made a bid to get on the defense team. I would have offered my services as soon as I saw what was going on. I would have said,
"Oh, you can get in pro hoc vice."
Oh
no,
man, I'm not doing it.
Allow it.
No way. You know how easy it is to kick me off.
At this point, forget it. At this point, forget it. But the other thing is, as someone who wasn't involved in those messages, like, I don't think that you guys have any sort of duty or job to moderate, what other people are saying. And I know, because like when I'm in like a group chat, I don't pay attention to 99% of it. And sometimes I'll just pop in and see like, what was just said and start to comment, like someone fill me in. So I don't know why, that someone expects that you guys are supposed to say, I don't like the inappropriate nature of whatever it was that you just said, or whatever the case, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I'm no one's parent. Like, these are all grown adults, and I hate to admit it, but like, I'm not going to scroll up if I haven't been in there in 3 days to read if there's 100 messages. Like, I don't have the wherewithal to do it. So like there's if I'm not in there, because I've got, as you can imagine, I've got a pretty big Twitter account. I have many groups that I'm in, and a lot of people DM me, and a lot of people DM me about this case, and a lot of people DM me theories about this case, and a lot of people claim that they have good information on this case. And Michael and I both kind of consider ourselves to be somewhat of a tip line. If I think that somebody's contacted me with something that's worth throwing to the defense in terms of, hey, maybe you want to take a look at this thing, person seems legit, I'll throw it over to Hoffman and say, hey man, like, this person hit me up, maybe you want to look into it.
Defense investigator, the private investigator.
Yeah, I mean, like, I consider myself like, because I cover the case, and I'm on the defense side of it in terms of the way that I operate. People, if they're of the mindset that they have the wrong guy, and they have theories, and sometimes it goes beyond theories. They have, information. I will, of course.
Right, and the mere fact that you guys will discuss in private the stuff people are sending that you don't think, and don't share it publicly,
ever,
it also flies in the face of everything, that's being complained of, because you're being given information that then you're not sharing publicly and just turning over to their private investigator. But you spoke about how defense attorneys often share like their motions, and prosecutors do too. There are whole prosecutor bars, and they share amongst the state and in different states, motions, ideas, things of that nature. I mean, I even got a brief from Cara myself on a post-conviction case that I was working on. That is normal practice between lawyers, and for anyone to make it seem like there's something untoward about that, is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and while we're on Cara, I want to make sure that I like, she gave me points that I want to make sure that I'm mentioning on her behalf, because she couldn't make it. But she said that MS had claimed that Joel is her husband, who's also an attorney, and I were actively helping Brad and Andy with the hearsay evidence, and they assumed, they being the murder sheet, assumed that meant Elvis's sister's statements. I have no idea who Elvis's sister is or what she says. when trial was still scheduled for May, they asked us to share any research that we had on the hearsay exceptions. If the state objected on hearsay, were there any exceptions that would let some statements in? We sent them case law. I don't remember the context of that message in the due process gang. I think that it was us trying to figure out whether they were actually going to trial or not. And I think that I was saying that they were indeed preparing. So there's that. She also, and I think, Ali, you may have addressed this one. Oh, they made a big deal out of me telling the group that Andy would have his cell phone in court and would text me updates. Do you know why he was doing that? The contempt hearing, Michael and I, and Michael touched on this, were going to be ready to file if Andy was thrown in jail. We weren't trying to get information. After all, Bob, you were at the hearing. I wouldn't need updates, smiley face. Instead, we were on the ready should we have needed to get the appellate courts involved. So there's that. Like, look, the bottom line here is that, and then Michael, what I want to address is the fundraiser, because I think that was another subject matter that was taken for something that it was not. But you know, in terms of Cara Wieneke, like their attacks on her, and you know, like these weird personal things, like, oh, this is a person who doesn't think the lunar landing happened, is just so sophomoric that I just it's hard for me to take seriously anybody who comes at people with that, you know. And again, you know, and I'm going to restate it in the event that they watch this live, I am available at any time.
No, you're not.
Well, Ali says I'm not. I say that I am. If you've got questions for me, but just be aware that I have questions for you as well, because I firmly believe everything that you know, you guys talk about being objective. I don't think you're objective at all. I think that you're shielding for the prosecution. You know, that's how I feel about it. So, I mean, the feeling's mutual.
Let me say something about Cara that people need to realize. She is the 800-pound gorilla of Indiana post-conviction work. I mean, she really is. And she has better judgment, better legal judgment, and also better actual judgment than anybody.
Oh, now we got it. Michael, you cut out just when you were saying than anyone I know, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I second that. I adore Cara. Absolutely.
All right, Michael's back. Let him go.
Keep going. You
no, and you know, because I will say this about Cara, because she's got more of her career ahead of her than I do. She's a little more publicly discreet than I am.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, she is. She's, you know, I mean, but in terms of her legal prowess, you know, like I realized immediately, and that was when she came in with, you know, the first OA, and I had reached out to her immediately. I'm like, damn, you know, I want to have you on live. And of course she was gracious enough to join us. And
well, and I don't usually want other lawyers information from other lawyers because I don't trust anyone. And I mean, Bob, you know, like I'm the one that, you know, I think my research is always the best. So, you know, if I'm taking some info from someone else, they've got to be worth their shit. So she is a heavy hitter, and a respected and respectable attorney in person. And it's just they've gone, you know, they've gone too far and off the deep end. I almost didn't want to do this because as far as I'm concerned, it was literally people making content about other people and their private discussion. I don't know how it's investigative. You know, whoever of the people out there who think it was interesting and shocking and bombshelling, honestly, I don't give a shit because those people are going to think what they're going to think.
I need to interrupt you something. There's a guy, somebody down here saying, so there's somebody down here, jury tampering is cool. Why pretend you don't have access to the discovery? That's what this is really all about. We know you do. Why deny it? Seriously, people?
Well, then why is Cara asking the people for facts about the factual information?
I
And if they
mean,
knew it, wouldn't it be in those secret discussions? Wouldn't they have been talking about it?
Yeah,
Oh, what a
if I
conversation.
knew it, why wouldn't, like, we haven't ever done one live on the facts of this case, like,
Well,
ever.
but they're
Like,
saying that you know it secretly, you're not admitting it, but those were your secret conversations. So why aren't they mentioned in there?
yeah, I guess it's a mystery, you know,
well,
and
and
it's
that's
like, well, but
Let
like
Michael
beyond
speak.
that,
Let
like
Michael speak.
the evil cabal who's like using these girls to like put out their narrative, like where are all why are if
Where are
that
the
was
directives?
true, why aren't they reading the messages where they're given directives by the lawyer cabal? Like where are all those messages? They don't exist, people. It's like this is a group of people that all happen to think that this dude's getting railroaded, and that's the extent of it. Period. End of story.
Well,
And that has nothing to do with his guilt or innocence. The like people that are
by the
innocent
legal
or
system.
guilty
Right.
can be railroaded. And the way that this thing is going down, this guy is being railroaded. Like it's got all the earmarks of a person being railroaded by the system. And that I'm a watchdog for that. On this case and any other case where I see that somebody is being railroaded by the system, by the crushing power of the state. And until you're in that position, you have no idea what that means. And I get that. But you know,
And he
you
will
can either
remain
take
a
two
voice for
people that have
the
never tried a case
defense
in their
bar.
life, or you could take it from three
Criminal.
lawyers that have, or four, including Allie, you know, but it's exhausting. Like no matter what they do after this, I promise this is the last time I'm responding to them at all, because I just don't care.
well, but you know, it was absolutely critical to respond to the jury tampering allegation.
For sure.
Right, to educate people because they are miseducating people. They are miseducating people, and that's dangerous because then it gets people, if there was something improper like that going on, it's the exact kind of thing that we would get up in arms in. So it's getting people up in arms about something that doesn't exist.
Well,
So hope
and they didn't. I'm going to interrupt you. And they didn't have the facts. I mean, you know, we were. I mean, there was going to be. You know, there was a group offered to help with vetting the jury. Period. The end. I mean, it's just nobody was going out stalking and harassing jurors, and you know, and some of the lives. And some of the comments in the lives, people actually someplace on Twitter too, people say, well, I hope they get this to the right authorities. I mean, it's silly.
Yeah.
But the other, so we've kind of dealt with two of the major things. The thing we ended up doing first is really sort of explaining our connection or lack to the defense. That is to say, you know, everything I do goes in. I get nothing out. I feed them stuff. I feed them legal ideas. I feed them factual stuff occasionally. What they do with it is entirely up to them. I've also done some IT support for them, $500 for external hard drives and an afternoon showing them how to put together the 25 separate drives they got in Discovery so they can search them all at once. I get, does that make me an insider? I don't think so. I didn't see any of it. I was giving them the tools to do something with it. So there's our connections to the defense. That is to say, for me, it's all it's pretty much a one-way thing. We've dealt with the jury tampering, but the third thing that everybody I listened to is somehow there was something shady. Shady was the about the fundraiser, and there was nothing shady about it.
Yeah,
right,
there's
and
no.
Bob had nothing to do with it, which was proved through the own episode, and the fact that there was that they even said in there that Bob was requested after the case by the person who made the fundraiser, asked Hennessy to come on, and Hennessy asked Bob to come on as well. Bob had nothing to do with the fundraiser whatsoever. And Michael, I don't think you did. I know you didn't either.
Yeah. Well, I went on a live. I went on a live with CJ to raise money.
Right, but I'm just saying you didn't put together the fundraiser. It wasn't your idea to put the fundraiser together.
But you know, all the money was going to Hennessy. You know, we were actually officially started it because of the technical problems and Dave Hennessy's, you know, limitations with things technical. And then, you know, I was going to go on another live with CJ and you know, raise, I think, the last $5,000 of the 45. And out of nowhere, Stripe said, "Oh, this violates the terms of service." Now, I don't know, you know, it didn't violate the terms of service in Karen Reed's case, as far as I know. At least that's my understanding, and I'm absolutely, you know, maybe Stripe had nothing to do with Karen Reed, and I'm just misinformed. But you know, the fact that people couldn't give any more money doesn't mean that the money that was given didn't go for experts. And I guarantee you that Dave Hennessy, who's
CJ, by the
way? He's a guy who had his own lives for a while. He's kind of had some problems.
Yeah, that's putting it kindly. No, as far as the fundraiser went, I wasn't even aware that it was a thing until it was already posted. Out in the world.
Michael did not entertain the idea of he just explained that who he was using to vet the jury was a professor who does that for a living, and other people. Go ahead, Michael. I don't know if you even want to respond to it, but.
Well, you know, this is why I stopped talking to Frank Wessling, because what happens is you explain things to people, and then they ask the question again if you hadn't explained it, and it's just exhausting and endless.
All right, so I agree. You don't need to explain it again.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that person wasn't on here, but I suggest that person maybe do a little research into vetting jurors and what's allowed. You know, and again, here in Illinois, we don't have the opportunity because we don't find out who our jurors are until the day of court. You know, that's
that's true in most cases here too. But I think in higher profile cases, the juror questionnaires come out earlier. And I wish Cara were here. She'd know better than I.
Right. And from what I read on the jury consultants, they do it at sitting there during voir dire or beforehand in cases where they get it from people ahead of time.
Yeah, but the fundraiser, Dave Hennessy for 40 years, although he supported public defense by being on the board of the Indiana Public Defender Council and just did amazing things for training public defenders around the state. You know, Dave Hennessy is irreproachable, and the money went for experts. And you know what? One, we can't tell you where the money went for experts because we don't, you know, what experts they went to because we don't know. But two, that information is going to be privileged anyway. And so people should just forget about problems with the fundraiser. The problem with the fundraiser is couldn't raise more money because Stripe did its thing.
Yeah, I mean, like my only input in terms of once the thing was already out, I had said, look, like that language that you wrote up, like in terms of the fundraiser itself, where they were saying that Rick is factually innocent. I'm like, I would remove that and say that, you know, there's a presumption of innocence here, and that, you know, like just focus on the facts, not on things that we don't know. Like,
right, but they use a tone when they say it, babe, as though you're pretending that's what you think. Like, let's target the people who think this way, when that's in actuality who you're trying to reach.
Right.
Well, I mean, just put it from, look, you're trying to raise money, so you want to reach as broad. I mean, let's say it's intentional. I mean, I don't think there's anything the matter with that. You want to raise money for experts for Rick Allen. There is going to be a broader audience who's interested in due process, not just innocence. And so, yes, you know, what Bob said from that was also totally sensible, not just because we don't know whether Rick Allen is innocent, but because going to get to more people. And what is the matter with putting up a more sympathetic picture of Rick Allen than one of his prison pictures? I mean,
no, it goes without saying that that's what should be done. It's ridiculous.
And somehow that's, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, I mean, look, like this is that case, you know, and it's like I talk about it with, you know, the two cases with the most toxic communities out there are Delphi and Karen Reed. And the common denominator, and I keep telling this to people because it's the truth. The common denominator in both of those cases is that you had the rare occurrence of the defense teams coming out with their full theories of the case, both of which named third-party culprits in both cases. So you had this divide that was created where people either thought the Odinist theory was absurd, you know, that this, you know, like, oh yeah, Odinist, it's a ritual thing, it's insane, I've never heard anything more bizarre, it's fantasy, blah blah blah, all that shit. And then in Karen Reed, you had the same thing. Oh yeah, sure, a bunch of cops beat up this guy and like dragged him out and left him to die. Sure, there's 20 people that are conspiring, you know. So you have the detractors from the defense's theory that dig in to their side, and then you have the people that find that the defense's theory has legs. And no matter which side you're on, that's your call. You know, like my message to people is that instead of just dismissing defense theories offhand as garbage, why don't you wait to trial? Why don't you wait and see what's vetted at trial, and then we'll judge whether or not it has legs or not. You know, to me, I like in my end all be all, my analysis of the Delphi case is that you've got two attorneys that dug into the case that have taken the ethically slippery slope of announcing publicly that not that their client is presumed innocent, but that they believe that their client is factually innocent. Now that is it's dangerous territory for either the defense or the prosecutor to say this person's 100% guilty. We know it. Like you're like, it's a dangerous place to be in terms of the ethics of it, because it's frowned upon, or I mean, it might even be punishable by a disciplinary committee, depending on how they view it. But so when we have Andy and Brad coming out, just flat out saying that based on the discovery that they've read, that they believe that Rick Allen is innocent. And then to top it off, you've got two handpicked lawyers, one of which works in Gull's courtroom frequently and in that courthouse daily because he is the head public defender, coming out publicly with Barb McDonald and again doubling down. So we now have four attorneys who are saying that they think that Rick Allen, based on their research of the discovery, is factually innocent. And then you compile the fact that you have Click, Ferenczi, and Murphy, who are all reputable cops. I have seen nothing that would cause me to think that any of those cops are not reputable law enforcement officers. Nothing. I've seen nothing that would make me think that they're crackpots. You know, that all three of them felt that there was a stronger avenue of investigation, so much so that they continued to follow it for years. And so much so is that when Click finds out that they arrested Richard Allen, and this isn't in dispute. I don't care about the you know, the ritual sacrifice aspect of it. What I care about is that Click was so disturbed by the fact that they had made an arrest that he felt compelled to write a letter to Nick McClelland saying, dude, did you get my package? Because I don't understand this arrest. So when you've got those 7 people that are all far more in tune with this case than I could ever be, saying that this guy is factually innocent or that he's not the right guy that they've arrested, it should cause everybody to pause and just at the very least, wait until trial, until we hear all the evidence. And that's all I'm asking people to do. That is all that I'm asking. Like, that is very compelling to me. It's a very, very compelling thing to me. And it's that simple. I have no idea as I sit here right now whether Rick Allen did or didn't do it. I have my personal thoughts on it, but in terms of sitting here saying I know anything or creating content where I'm trying to prove his innocence, we don't do that. That is not what we do with this channel. Just like I haven't produced any kind of content trying to prove that the 5 people that the defense named in their Frank's memo are guilty of doing it. I have no idea. I don't have access to any of that information. But Michael made a great point one time about the Elvis Field statement, how it seems ridiculous to me that people are so easily persuaded to dismiss the fact that this guy made some kind of admission to being there and leaving DNA on one of the girls, and they find that that's ridiculous. However, they're locked in stone on the fact that Richard Allen has made some kind of confessions, which we don't know what they are. You know, like, you can't have it both ways. Why is one ridiculous and the other isn't? It confuses me. You know, it's like, I just find it hard to believe that people just don't find that compelling. Like, it's hard for me to digest that. Like, when I heard about the Elvis Fields, I don't give a shit what his IQ is. I really don't. Like, I mean, if somebody's puking out things about the crime scene that it seems like only the perpetrator would know, and again, it blows my mind that people are just so willing to dismiss it as nonsense. Like, it shocks me every time I think about it, to be honest with you. So I don't know, you know, like, I don't know where.
All right, answer some questions, Bay.
Let's see what we got. So let's see.
Well, while you're looking for the questions, it's not directly related to, those podcast episodes yesterday. Just something happened on this one live I was watching that I think is really illustrative of what happens out here. And this guy in Bloomington who has his own live that, as I said, shares with hackers and leakers. I was in his chat a while ago, and he was saying yesterday that in an early live, he'd said that I'd been in a Discord with some people, and when he mentioned that, I got really upset. And actually, and then he said, because of the episodes yesterday, it turns out that he was right. He just either doesn't remember what the exchange was, or he's just making stuff up, because the exchange in the Discord, the exchange in his chat, he talked about the questionable ethics of my students and me hanging out in Discords with, to dredge up stuff for the contempt hearing. And I said, don't you dare comment on what my students and I may or may not have done. And I got out. So he misrepresented yesterday, made himself right, created an impression that I'd been in some Discord group, although be this group chat with you and Angela, Courtney, and Nicole. And it just struck me that that's just how it happens out here. I mean, people either don't pay attention to what was said and forget, or just make crap up out of stuff later. And now, it'll forward, oh, he was right about that, and Ausbrook was wrong. Ausbrook was wrong. I mean, that's just how it goes.
Hey, listen, man. There's an old saying: listening is a skill, and it's a skill that most people don't have. That's facts. And it's like, I've been doing this. I don't know how long we've been doing this, Al. 8 months. And like, and you would not believe the amount of people that clearly have never listened to our content, but they're completely misconstruing everything that I say and framing me in a way that doesn't represent anything that I stand for or anything that I'm saying. So, I mean, at some point you have to kind of like grow a thick skin to it, but you know,
yeah,
I mean,
for example, when you say a PCA either leans towards guilt or leans towards innocent is the same as declaring someone factually innocent.
Yeah, dude, come on, man. It's like, you know, it's like I'm pretty big on you got to wait to trial until everything's vetted. I mean, like, I don't know how many times I've said that. Like, I preface every time that I talk about it, I always preface it because that's the truth. We don't know anything about a case until it gets to trial, until we see the evidence. That's facts. Like everything that everybody's screaming and yelling about. That's why we never do lives about the facts of this case, because I don't know what the fuck they are.
All right, answer a question.
All right, so there's not a ton of questions. There's a lot of comments. Best mods out here.
Thanks.
Well,
$2
Bob, that's not, you know, that's, you know, it's not quite fair that you don't know facts. There are all kinds of facts beyond dispute. A really wonderful woman who used to be a judge here in the county. She was also a capital defense lawyer for 30 years. You know, she always talks about facts beyond dispute. Now, some of the facts, and this is why I'm not such a believer in trial as you are. Well, you know, everybody after the Trump verdict was saying, you know, all the libs were coming out saying, got to respect the jury's verdict. No, I've spent a career not respecting jury verdicts. I have a very low opinion of juries.
That's what you do in post-conviction work, people, if you don't know. So.
Look, jury, I mean, that's the other thing people have to realize. Jury trials are an extremely small sliver of the criminal defense world. I mean, in Indiana, 98% of the cases that get filed end up in pleas. So the cases that go to trial are going to be trial usually. So what was I saying?
You were saying that there are facts that are not in dispute.
Yeah, there are, but the jury may not hear them. I mean, the jury won't hear probably that Rick Allen has no criminal history. The jury won't hear that two sets of lawyers independently who have seen the discovery have said Rick Allen is innocent. And we don't know because of the trial, you know, what tactically the defense is going to use from all that 15 terabytes or so of stuff. I mean, they're not going to see it all. But there are facts beyond dispute now. It seems to be a fact beyond dispute that, you know, the cell phone ping, you know, Livy's cell phone pinged at 4 something. Well, but that cell phone was found under her body, under her shoe. Excuse me?
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's always.
We're assuming there could be prosecution facts that we don't know yet. Is what?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There could absolutely be prosecution facts we don't know about. But what I'm saying is that at least the theory of the case that, you know, this happened in the afternoon of February 13th. That's a problem.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, I'm going to go through. So Afton, Archer, $10 holla. I haven't tried a jury, but I sit at counsel table. I've done several death penalty and life without the possibility of parole, jury selections. I'm a social worker. We have a code of ethics and a license. So that's another example of a jury consultant, hard at work. Keep speaking your truth. Bob, Allie, and Sleuthy, always. And Michael, of course. Pokey, we love you. Allie Scout here for it.
It was very nice meeting you.
It was. We love the hugs. We
True
got to meet.
Podcast Festival.
We got to meet a bunch of our subs and listeners at the True Crime Podcast Festival. It was wonderful. We loved it. Spitfire, who we love. It's a bigger part of the problem with people completely misunderstanding and twisting what the other side is saying. It's habitual. It's a habitual thing. It's because no one listens. No one really listens. Everyone just wants to talk. $5 holler from Michelle. Isn't Judge Gull required to refer to recusal motion to Supreme Court?
Not. Yeah. Is Michael, do you know?
Do I know what?
Isn't Judge Gull required to refer the recusal motion to the Supreme Court?
No, she rules on her. Are you talking about the recusal motion or the lazy judge motion?
No, I think they mean the lazy judge motion. The recusal motion's already been denied, and she for the second time denied it. So now, the newest attack is once again up at the Supreme Court level, Indiana Supreme Court level. Michael, do you have any kind of anticipated time frame on that?
I don't. I mean, Phoenix has done some sort of interesting research on prior motions and the amount of time, and the longer they go on, the more likely they're to get granted. And I think I've said, in tweets that, I think Cara's formally, Justin Faulkner, the chief administrator of the Indiana Supreme Court, signature will be on whatever order comes out. It won't be signed by us, but I cannot imagine that what the order that his signature is under won't be the consultation with and among the justices.
Yeah, I'm curious as what's going to go on with that. And it's like, again, the timing of these episodes is always curious to me, and I'll leave it at that. Don Burke, member for 8 months. This case is crazier than Karen Reed. Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt. Like that is, there's no question about that. Don Burke, thank you very much for gifting 10 DD memberships. We appreciate you so much for many, many reasons. Bo Pete, love the rant, Bob. Thank you, Bo Pete.
Thanks,
appreciate you. Zool, no ethics, only Zool. Zool's been making a bunch of weird comments, which I kind of love. I don't know how to put it another way. Kathy, $20 hello, Bob and Allie. Have a good evening. You too.
Thanks,
Thank you, Kathy, so much. Canadian girl, Allie and Bob are built different, but they don't bend the knee to the mob. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
That is for sure. Thank you so much for that. Canadian $7 holla. Love it. Did MS reach out to y'all to get your side? Yeah, 5 minutes before they dropped the episodes. And it was for a written statement. They didn't want to have me on the episode. So you take that for what it's worth.
And I have put out an olive branch before last time to have a discussion trying to figure out what exactly their issue was and how to quash the whole thing. They didn't take us up on that either.
Yeah, I think their issue is the fact that I didn't excommunicate myself from Courtney and Angela, who they have
clearly their issue.
They have this huge issue.
They threatened our lives, and you're still interact with them. How could you interact with them? I still don't know what the hell they're talking about. I know that they've said it, but I don't know.
I don't know what the context of their beef is. Like, right. I don't know. Like, it could be going on for years. I know that collectively that they've all been digging into Delphi for a long, long time. I have no idea that, you know what, that's between them. Like, I have nothing to do with it. Like, and again, I base my opinions on people based on my own interactions with people. I don't take other people's word for it. I base it strictly on my own experiences with people. And I suggest everybody
I wouldn't
do that.
Believe anything that Kevin or Anya told me. These people threatened my life. I have no idea if that's true.
I mean, at this point, right. Like,
yeah, you said it.
But my point is that, coming into this, people had said things about them, and I didn't care what people had said about them.
Right.
Like I said, I base my own opinion based on my own interactions with people. That's because, like, I have no idea what shit is going on between other people. Like, it has nothing to do with me. People could be arguing about all kinds of shit. Somebody says something ugly, and and welcome to Twitter. like seriously, if you're on Twitter, and if you're taking things literally on Twitter, your head's going to explode because it is the most toxic, nightmarish place that I've ever been. And like, I don't get into it. I don't name call. I don't do that shit. And if people want to give me grief over what I'm saying privately, tough shit. Stay out of my business. Stay the fuck out of my business. I didn't invite you. I could say whatever I want privately. What I choose to do publicly in a professional level, that's a different thing. I'm allowed to have thoughts about people, and believe me, I do. So if you want to get into my private business, don't come sniveling about it when you read it. Period.
Bob, if you don't if you don't like Twitter, you should see Reddit.
Oh, dude, believe me, I've seen Reddit. Like they love me in the Delphi trial Reddit sub. Like I'm a crowd favorite over there. Like Allie dips in there. I'm like, don't even go there. Don't even go in there. It's like, it's like,
yeah. No, and I have a history of and I'm former military intelligence.
Your former military intelligence.
Yes.
No, that's what that's. I mean, that's the kind of stuff. I mean, that's the kind of fantasy that's there.
Oh my!
Yeah.
No, it's that Reddit's a whole nother level, and it's interesting because it appears, at least on its face, to have a higher intellectual value than like a Facebook group, just in terms of like kind of the comment, like the like Delphi Docs, which is a Reddit group that I love. There's a lot of lawyers in there. I spend a lot of time in there. I haven't been in there in a while. It's not because I don't love them. It's just because I've been swamped.
Right.
So Chrislyn Kendall, $10 holla. I listened to the MS episodes and was shocked at how very petty of them. Much love, Bob and Allie. Thank you, Chrislyn. It's me call people who share old conversations because they don't agree or don't get along anymore completely lack integrity, period.
Yep.
I agree. Can we talk about the insane invasion of privacy? What had happened here? Murder Sheet got messages that didn't belong to the person who gave them messages. I honestly don't know how it happened. It sounds
Bob
like
did not realize that this Paul was even in the conversations. I don't know that not that it made a difference one way or the other, but apparently
I think it was like a business Twitter account that the girls and this other dude were using, and that they would all had access to, and they could like message like if, like Allie was saying, if like there's sometimes she's been on DD, like if I'm on a criminalities live or something like that, it pops up as DD. Like Allie can obviously access that and leave messages as well. So I'm assuming that was what that was. I mean, like I don't know. Like in whatever happened, I didn't realize that there were multiple people using that same thing. So like I guess whatever happened with them, and then this guy co-opted the whole thing and then shared all the private messages. Like I certainly didn't consent to it. I know Michael didn't consent to it. I know that Cara didn't consent to it. And I'm fairly certain the girls were fighting to get the account back, but so whatever. Look, man, I mean, at the end of the day, like you can just use your own judgment. If that's something that you're into, if you're into reading people's private messages as if they were meant for public consumption
and then giving your own spin on them.
Yeah. Reading them out of order, like combining all different kinds of threads to make them seem like it's something it's not, like it's something nefarious. Like it's just, I don't know. It's weird.
Thanks, Joe Schmo. Appreciate
it. Love
you,
Joe Schmo. You're a good one. Good egg. Thank you and keep up the good work. That's multi-Brad 777 DBA acid with elder. Love that handle, by the way. Thank you so much for that $20 holla. Luna's mom, 24. Oh, damn it, Bob. I didn't even know this case. You got me at the rights of the defendant are being trampled on. More sleepless nights worrying about the American justice system. We love you, Luna's. Remember, Luna's mom is a huge Allie fan, by the way, baby.
Yes. Thank you, Luna's mom.
So, Judge Jessica, I take the discussion on this challenge to be the opinion of a defense attorney based on how you see the documents, case, motions. I appreciate your point of view. That's very perceptive, Judge Jessica. I mean, I thought that the name Defense Diaries would kind of like...
Don't go off trying to be a voice for the defense, Bob.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. It's kind of my thing. I'm a watchdog. I'm going to keep an eye. I'm going to keep an eye on all these cases. And if I sniff out bullshit, I'm going to call it. Dr. Wieneke, another long time
Thank you for the
sub. We love
$20.
you so much. I haven't seen him on Court TV in a long time on any case, but I have seen Bob. I wonder if they're jealous. Who knows? I don't know. But thank you so much for the $20 hollow. That I do know. Rose, $5. Why don't people understand that both sides in a jury trial of ordeal potential jurors and run background checks? It's normal, fuck's sakes. From a paralegal. Thank you so much, Rose. And we agree, obviously, and that is facts. Curious Contrarian, $5 hollow. Release the DMs yourselves, guys. Problem solved. It was all third-party crap. I don't have them. Like,
yeah, I tried desperately to get my hands on them.
When I left the group, like I couldn't access them anymore. So it was
nobody can access them anymore.
And I to be honest, I don't consider it a problem. Like to be perfectly honest with you. Like,
I'm not releasing anyone's private discussions any more than they already have. It's stupid. So
yeah, it's like, you know. But
thank you for the
we appreciate the $5. Luna's mom gifted 5 DD memberships. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luna's mom.
Luna's mom again. Oh my god. Oh wait. First,
it's a different one.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh my god, Bob, dip into the toe into Delphi. If this gets me sideways, invest it like I'm in the Cara retrial. I'm 100% blaming you. I'll take it, and it is.
And it is.
It's like this was going on for months before Karen Reed, and I was telling everybody, I'm like, Karen Reed doesn't have shit on Delphi, like this,
especially because he's sitting in a prison for prison cell 23 out of 24 hours a day.
Yeah, and has been for a year and change. It's unbelievable. A to Z member for 9 months. OG, they ran out of content and you were the next most entertaining topic. Ha!
I mean, they keep coming back to it. It's kind of weird.
You know, I guess who knows. Renee, like how do you think you pronounce that? Gnak? I want to say it's Gnak. It seems Gnak. Long time. We love you. You're a member. Gifted 10 DD memberships. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A to Z back again, gifting 5 more. Appreciate you so much. Amanda love it. Super sticker $5. So Michelle J, hey y'all, member for 2 months. Appreciate you. And then we got Curious $10 cope and seethe. Exactly. It's a perfect description. That was me a couple days ago. While the tornadoes were going on. I think the first one dropped when like tornadoes were dropping and like in Scarlett's going nuts. Like, my dad and his walker, he won't come down. And I'm like, the siren's going off. We have to go. He's like, I'm gonna sit on the couch. So yeah, that was a frantic day.
I'm the real hugger. Did I hug was a defense attorney meow at the
You had to have hugged people. I would hope so.
No, I'm sure I did.
Defense attorney meow. Oh, that's because you came around. Like she's casting shade on me because I was stuck behind the table. Defense attorney meow. That wasn't my fault. They had us locked in. The tables were all like 50 yards across. You couldn't get out. Allie,
Bob, no excuses. Sarah Bly became a YouTube member. Thank you.
Oh, appreciate that. Meg P, babe. Bob, Allie, Michael, we love you all. Family hug. Appreciate you, Meg, for everything you do and that $20 hollow.
You're not going to give her a family hug after all that?
Family hug, of course. Cindy Marksberry, $20 hollow. I'm historically a prosecution-minded person. DD has gone a long way to opening my eyes. Things I didn't understand. Great channel and awesome podcast. Love you guys so much. That's my favorite comment of the night. Thank you so much. That is entirely our point, is we are just trying to let people know
one person at a time.
Just
like he said.
There has been 30, 40 years of true crime content that you have consumed, wherein all you have heard from is the government, that being the cops and the prosecutors. We're trying to change the narrative. We're trying to educate people as to what defense attorneys really do, how mandatory we are in the system, how mandatory we are in preserving our rights as citizens in this country, because it's not the cops and it's not the prosecutors.
So thanks, Cindy.
So thank you, Cindy. Go ahead, read it, babe.
Hello, Spring 2016. Thanks for the $10. The threat to the due process gang needs to end. It's unnecessary and dangerous. Sleuthy has been threatened, and it's not okay. And I hope Sleuthy hasn't been threatened, but yeah, it's definitely not okay. I don't know if
It's definitely not okay. It's
I
definitely
mean,
not.
the entire thing was not okay. I hate that we're even responding to it, but
I
there were
know.
certain things said that are unfair for the public. And look, maybe those parts of the public aren't listening, but at least you guys are all educated to know there's nothing remotely jury tampering about that. There's, the big things that we touched on, the fundraisers completely, legitimate. There's nothing wrong with any
Yeah,
of
and
what
all that will be disclosed. Like the money was sent to the defense team. They used it for experts. We'll all
Yes.
find out it like after the fact. Like there was nothing scammy about it. Like the concept that people are telling you is a scam, that's the scam. That's the scam. Like whatever the name of that company is, a legitimate company. Stripe is a legitimate company. They had issues because the Hennessy's an old man. Like, and he's crotchety, and I would tell Dave that right to his face, and he'd agree 100% on both of those counts,
Yellow
and it's like
Jacket.
trying to get it's like literally it would be trying to get my father to get a like a fund or like, hey dad, I'm going to use you as the lawyer for the fundraiser, and he would have no idea what the fuck I was talking about. Oh, you gotta, of course.
Can I answer something that was sent down in the chat? Somebody suggested that okay for me to use emails of Gary Baudet's and other deplorables, in the contempt, about the contempt hearing, and as also as part of the live on R&W that I did about the case that Dave Hennessy didn't get to put on. But now that the shoe's on the other foot, I'm offended. I think I said earlier, again, I don't know whether these people aren't listening. I'm unhappy that you all have been outed in these, and your privacy has been invaded, but I'm not offended at all. And what I did with those communications and that toxic discord that I'm pretty convinced directly was involved with the actual leak as it happened. Those were involved. Those were potentially evidence in an actual criminal trial. And I don't care where they came from.
And I don't know what you're talking about, but it sounds, I mean, you got to get evidence wherever you can get it. And anything hasn't proven.
Wait, somebody compared evidence that was actually attached as exhibits. To these people
it was evidence that was going to be. So Gull didn't let it in, but it was evidence that Hennessy had with him, ready to go, to put on part of a case that in fact the leak did not. It wasn't just other people. It was the leak did not come from Westerman.
From the defense office.
Westerman, yeah.
Yellow Jacket.
Yo,
dude, Yellow Jacket, $10. He said, "Stay out of my business."
Exactly. Thank you, Yellow Jacket.
Thank you, y'all. Jen with $100 holla. Love you, Bob and Allie.
Wow, thank you.
Amazing, how generous.
Is there like a special sound effect for that?
I don't know. Like in my head, it's explosive. I can just tell you that. Thank you so much, Jen.
Very
You're
generous.
always amazing and always generous. We really appreciate it. Collie Rooks, $5 holla. In my honest opinion, the release texts were just for clout. I mean, who doesn't think Gull is biased? Murder Sheet doesn't. Been the Supreme Court agreed. She did some been the Supreme Court agreed. She did some shady stuff. Apparently, I mean, she survived the OA. I mean, whether or not she's gonna survive the next thing is yet.
They had some issues, though.
Yeah, they did.
The Supreme Court.
Sarah Aspiring, one of our wonderful mods, who thank you. I'm going to thank you right now, all the mods. I know it's been challenging tonight. I haven't been looking at the YouTube, so I see a lot of that everything that you haven't allowed through I'm seeing. So I haven't been watching the YouTube. I just been looking at the StreamYard comments. So I'm assuming that you have been doing an amazing job, but not making it an echo chamber, because we don't want that. But if people can't control themselves, Got to bounce him.
Luna's mom
Wait,
again.
I didn't read it. Onward and upward,
Oh.
had to respond, but let this be the only attention they ever get from you, from us. Exactly. Love you guys. Love you back, Sarah.
Thank you.
All right, go. Luna's mom.
Bob, I'm on the record. I love you and Jay too. Allie has the best rants. Get it straight.
Woo!
I'm totally fucked now. Following you and Allie until the end.
I
Thanks,
agree.
Luna's
She
mom.
does. She does have great rant. She's a great ranter. We love ranting. We love ranting over here. Kathy Belbin, $10 holla, super sticker. Appreciate you, Kath. Really do. Melanie Parker, 4-month member. Allie, please get Melanie a little to look at Delphi. We'll drag her over here.
Yeah, no, I told her we'll get her in for like one of the next things that happens.
Because it'll blow her mind. It'll blow all their mind. Like all the Karen Reed folks, when they become privy to what's going on in Delphi, it's going to blow their minds. A lot of similarities, factual patterns completely different, but in terms of kind of the procedural history, it's been interesting in both cases. Fascinating. Bo Pete, again, $5 holla. Michael, thanks for all your dedication and hard work on Delphi. Yes, Michael, we appreciate you. And we appreciate you, Bo Pete. And then Odd Structure, $5 holla. Thank you so much for that. All right. Now, mods, did you guys see any other questions that came up that you guys think would be worth? Let's see. Dizzy screaming at me that I wasn't live. Thank God for that. I was going I was like 5 minutes in, and then Allie's like, Dizzy says we're not live. Let's see. I don't know if I see anything. So, Michael, do you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, it's this kind of stuff happens. I think. I mean, because nothing's going on with the case. I mean, if you just look at what's going on, been happening and you all have been busy with other things. But I listen to lives because I learn facts that I don't know, and what people. I am interested in what people have to say. It's it's not just ranting that Rick Allen is guilty, or even ranting that Rick Allen is innocent. I mean, something new. I mean, people have perspectives, like there are little corners, rabbit holes I've never heard of. But what's been going on in the community, and murder, most recent example. I mean, it's almost
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Michael, is that your phone buzzing?
Yeah. What? Yeah. It's just the endless stream of texts from the reincarnation process gang.
Hey. Yeah, I love it. So, babe, do you have any final thoughts? Bob's zone of pain.
I guess
I think the zone of pain came out when I decided that I was going to allow Hennessy to come on. I gave him the ability to come on, and after they had I felt besmirched him, and I feel he's got a very storied legal career, and I had every expectation that David was going to not be happy with them. So I think that was in reference to that, the zone of pain, but I'm here for it. And I like the moniker. Babe, you got anything else?
We are licensed in Pennsylvania, but we are inactive, on inactive status, just because we don't practice there anymore. And to actually become active again, because I had an old client ask, it's
a whole thing. You got to do all of the backlog,
submitting all my old
CLEs,
and it's a lot.
It would be quite an effort. And since we don't practice there, but we're licensed there, we're just inactive. So do you got anything?
Can I say one more thing? Can I say one more thing tacked on to what I was saying? I don't want to go on too long and prolong. You all don't talk about facts. I mean, I'm happy to talk with folks about facts and about the law. And it's like, none of this would be happening if people were just like talking about facts. And you can say there aren't that many out there. No, there are a ton out there. And you know, you can poke around, but you know, this whole, you know, character assassin thing, instead of talking about I mean, I think, you know, Tom Webster asked in a tweet, you know, what I think the big questions are after I said in the tweet, you know, y'all ought to be talking about the big questions. I think there are a bunch. I'm more interested in what, you know, other people think the big questions are, and, you know, how the facts fit in with those big questions, and what needs to be, you know, what should the prosecution and the defense, I mean, factual stuff, not, you know, who's up, who's a creep, who's, and especially, you know, people who have no basis to judge, talk about, try to police ethics.
Yeah, I mean,
the irony of like literally sharing private messages between people as though it's news, and
under
somehow
the guise that it's news.
Yeah.
Is something else.
Complaining about the ethics of other people for calling a judge a bitch in a private conversation.
Yeah, like, and sometimes I think she's been bitchy. I mean, like sometimes that's the best description of it. But you know, I keep it private. You know, and the murder sheet wants to make it public. That's on them. Like she should ban them.
Right, and talk about being offensive to the family, sharing whether things should or shouldn't have been said, sharing what someone's saying out of context. That is so much worse than just saying it. It's like privately, they're taking people's private stuff, making it public, complaining it was said, and actually publicly saying it. It's absurd.
Yeah, and you know, I have a slightly unpopular. This will be a great way to end it. Slightly unpopular view, probably.
Pete Kramer, what did I do? Like, enlighten me, friend. What did I do? Like, you're a friend of the show. Like, I'm curious.
No, it's not anything you did. I just have. I think
he stuck. Bob went outside of you, and we're not going to censor you. We'll let you give that opinion. But he wants to know what this B. Kramer thinks that Bob did. I would like to know what he thinks that Bob did as well.
I'd like to know.
Bob
well, let's move on to that. That's much more important.
No, keep going, because maybe B. Kramer will respond.
But in the meantime, we won't censor you.
You know, I have a great deal of respect for the family's loss. Says 2 girls. But I have no respect for the journalists who have cozied up to them and refuse to ask hard questions that they need to answer. And they hide behind gag order, which actually can have no application to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of that goes to the investigation, which I think will probably be put on trial in this case, I imagine. You know, I don't know. Like, I don't know who they talked to and who they didn't talk to. You know what I mean? Like, you may know better than I, but I'm not sure, you know. So let's see. Trying to see if B. Kramer ever came back. I'm dying to know. I'm dying to know.
And, well, since we were talking about, you know, the judge in this case, you know, it's kind of like what Ali said about, you know, disrespect for the families, and they put it out there. You know, I as an Indiana lawyer, I pretty much have an obligation to not publicly bring disrepute on the judiciary. And as I like to say, I leave it up to the judiciary to do it to themselves. And, you know, taking off of Dave Hennessy's comment about the judge in this case leaving her broomstick behind last October 31st, I took in Twitter to calling the judge Miss Gulch. Now, who is Miss Gulch? Miss Gulch, who turns into a witch later, but Miss Gulch is just a mean woman being mean to a girl by taking her dog for we really don't know what reason. I mean, maybe the dog bit somebody, you know, whatever. We have a judge with scads of experience who, on at least 4, as I count them, and as many as 6 occasions, did things that she literally has no power to do. I've said this before. It's not news. And one of those things she did arguably leaves blood on her hands. It is very hard for a judge to exceed their authority. And to do it that many times in a single case is practically inexplicable. So if I call her Miss Gulch, I have no regrets.
Yeah, you know, it's all right. Yeah. So my final thought. Did you ever have a final thought, babe? I can't remember. Oh, she's gone. Everyone's gone. Everyone's gone except for me. It's the last dude standing. Yeah. My final thought is this. I in no way, shape, or form work for Brad and Andy. Not as a hired shill, not as a mouthpiece, not as nothing. I know none of the facts of the case. However, I will always be a voice for them, their client, and every other client and every other set of defense attorneys in this country when I get the sense that their client is getting absolutely railroaded. That's my opinion on this. And I will absolutely always be a voice. I'm a watchdog. I am a criminal defense attorney. You may not be used to hearing this side of it because you're so used to hearing from prosecutors and cops. It may not be your cup of tea. If it's not, don't listen. If you want to learn something from the other side, give it a swirl, give it a listen. Maybe you'll dig it. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll agree. Maybe you won't. But at least it's a different perspective that maybe can enlighten you as to what's really going on here. So last messages, babe, because I'm about to cut it. I'm sitting here in the dark.
I guess we should. My last thing would be Holly B. Did you read this yet?
Holly B.
$50. Was never interested in podcasts or trials until I watched you guys in the Karen Reed trial. My mind has just been blown. Now I can't stop talking about how great you guys are. Tried the MS podcast, but it's so flat and boring. Well, we appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
We really do. We really do. And look, if y'all have questions that we didn't get
Luna had a question about how she could catch up, but I think you just have to there's some on the
it's probably easier on the
podcast. Right.
Yeah. Like most of our lives, if they're not like 4 hours long, we convert to podcast when Darren gets to them.
This one we're not.
This
on my choice.
What?
No, I don't want to give them any more anything. So
okay. All right. You're the boss. You're the boss. All right. So Michael, anything else before we bounce?
Absolutely not. Thanks for the opportunity. It's always fun talking with both of you.
You've always got a platform here, my friend. You know that.
And do you want to talk after?
Yeah, we'll chat after.
Okay.
So hang. All right, y'all. We love you. Thank you so much for all of the support. If you'd be kind enough to just give us a share, give us a like, give us a subscribe, that would really be appreciated. If not, we'll see you around the corner, maybe. But we appreciate the incredible generosity as well tonight. It was overwhelming. And to our mods, we love you beyond all get out, because
I'm just laughing at how dark you are. Sorry.
Thank you,
mods.
I couldn't leave because I didn't turn on my light. It was actually light when I started this thing. That tells you we've been going too long. So we love you guys. Thank you for being here. And if you have any questions that we didn't get to and you're watching on replay, leave them in the comments, and I'll try to get to them. I really will, because I don't want to feel like I didn't answer people's questions, because I certainly wasn't coming on here making excuses, just stating facts, honestly. You know, so it is what it is. So we love you guys, because without you, I would just be an old man
talking about a lot of cases.
Hey there.
Hey, wait. Oh, wait. Boop.